Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you the most OP build guide for Honor mode in Baldur's Gate 3. So there's one class that can honestly solo the entire Honor mode playthrough because they are that good. And this is the Bard mixed with either Paladin or Fighter, which I'll be covering in this video and showing you how to make it the strongest version of the Bard. So what's nice about this is with the Bard you get an extra short rest too for healing. You also get a bunch of nice cantrips early on in the game, so even like Vicious Mockery and the ability later in the game to cast bonus action, enchantment, or illusion spells. So I'll be going over all of that in this video. So for our cantrips, I think that is great to go with Vicious Mockery. Mage Hand can be nice because you can use this to throw health potions and heal your team. But Minor Illusion's also another really great cantrip. And even Friends, although on Honor mode, you do have to watch out because this will make some targets hostile after 10 turns. So if you use Friends, run away afterwards. But we're going to go with Minor Illusion and Vicious Mockery. Vicious Mockery is just a really funny cantrip. Now, Dissonant Whisper is actually pretty good. 3d6 of psychic damage, which can be increased later on if you find the Resonance Stone. This will frighten a creature, giving them disadvantage on ability checks and attack rolls, which is quite nice. Healing Word's great too. If you want to pick up your downed allies with this, this is a bonus action, can be counterspelled. So if you have a fighter, their rally is a little bit better, but Healing Word is still very useful for picking up downed allies. And for the other two, I think that Thunderwave is great, especially if you find opportunities where you can knock enemies off of cliffs or just completely knock them into lava or something like that in the Grimforge. Extremely useful spell. And it's situational, but it is useful as well. Now, the last spell, Sleep can be good early game. Long Strider's great as a ritual spell, increase movement speed by 3, but if you want to play or make it the easiest, in Honor mode, you can have someone sit at your camp and cast this, Hero's Feast, Aid, and other spells, Death Ward, Warding Bond on your team, so you don't even have to take this, you can have someone else cast it on your entire team. So something like Sleep, or even Tasha's Hideous Laughter, which is an enchantment spell. Leave a creature prone with laughter without the ability to get up for 10 turns. And what's nice about this is this counts as an enchantment, so you can use it as a bonus action once you get to Act 3. So we're going to go with this for our choices. Now pick whatever instrument you want, and our ability scores. This is where things get a little bit interesting because we're gonna want to have high charisma and high dexterity. Constitution is another important stat. We never want our wisdom to go negative too, because if you have a negative to your wisdom, you're going to have less of a chance of getting saving throws succeeded because there's a lot of wisdom saving throws. So something like this, you can take points out of your constitution and bring up the strength as well if you'd like, but we'll go with this. And there's also a lot of strength potions in Act 1. Buy them from Auntie Ethel, you can set your strength to 20, so it's the easiest stat to dump. But we're going to use mostly dexterity-based weapons. Now for our skill proficiencies, I think it's best to go with stealth, because that's going to be super useful in Honor mode. And you also want to have, I guess, one of these too, so acrobatics. Also, I guess, persuasion and deception are really useful too, just for the amount of dialogue checks. So go stealth, deception, persuasion, although you can put acrobatics on too if you'd like. Just to prevent being shoved, but it just depends if you find that you get shoved often. I'll be going over the gear at the end of this video, but this is easily the strongest build guide in Baldur's Gate 3. So at next level 2, we get Jack of all trades, adding half our proficiency bonus to ability checks we're not proficient in, as well as Song of Rest, giving us another short rest. And we also get to pick another spell, so you could take Long Strider there. Fairy Fire is decent for giving advantage on attack rolls against a creature, so you could go that way, but I think Long Strider is pretty nice if you don't want to use that ability to cast it on everyone. Speak with Animals, you can get so many Speak with Animal potions in the game that it's just not worth getting, so we'll go with that for our level 1 spells. Now at level 3, we get to choose our subclass, and by far the best choice is the College of Swords, because we get a fighting style, but we also get different flourishes, which Slashing Flourish, if we take the Paladin, we can use Divine Smite on 2 targets. Another really good one is the Slashing Flourish range, which allows us to attack the same enemy twice as well with an additional 1d6 of slashing damage, or piercing damage. It takes the weapons damage type. So there's lots of great choices. If you want to even increase armor class by 4, that's another choice with Defensive Flourish, or Mobile Flourish for moving around. So you got lots of options there. Now for our spell, there's a couple great options. I think Hold Person is one of the best spells in this game. And it's especially useful because you can cast this as a bonus action and attack within 3 meters and get a critical hit for free. Illusion or Invisibility is another one that's an illusion spell, so we could go that route. But even early game damage, if you want to go Heat Metal, because this is 2d8 fire damage, gives disadvantage on attack rolls and ability checks if they're wearing armor. Some people like Cloud of Daggers, and you can cheese it by putting a bunch of poison bottles on the ground and then using Cloud of Daggers to break them and also deal damage to the target. But we're going to go with Hold Person because that's extremely useful. Now for our fighting style, if you're going to plan on using a sword and shield, dueling is great. However, if you're going with the 2 weapons, obviously this is the best choice, and this will apply to your hand crossbows, so you could go this route as well. So yeah, we also get the ability to take a couple more skills. So even increasing our stealth further. We want persuasion as much as possible. If you're on a good playthrough, go to persuasion. But on an evil playthrough, intimidation or deception are good choices. But I just think that stealth is super useful on this build. So I'm going to go that route because you can use invisibility, stealth your way out. You also get greater invisibility. Now for a cantrip, I think Mage Hand is great. Again, you got to be careful with friends in honor mode. So that's one thing to keep in mind. And invisibility is extremely useful. Turn invisible. Attacks against it have disadvantage. If you're playing as a Durgar, which also gets invisibility at will, you don't have to take this. But another choice is, again, heat metal. And even like Cloud of Daggers or... See, invisibility has some usefulness. I would say probably heat metal or Cloud of Daggers personally, but invisibility is just super useful. And we get to pick ourselves a feat. Now, there's a few good choices here. Like Warcaster to give advantage on saving throws to hold concentration on a spell is pretty nice, and get reaction Shocking Grasp so we can weaponize our reaction, because we, as a sword bard, we don't have a reaction, so that's a little bit annoying. But alert for the +5 to initiative and can't be surprised. You want to have someone in your party with alert, because that can be a game winner for you guys. If you're getting surprised, that could end your run right there. So having someone that has Misty Step as well as alert to get away and teleport out of there is super useful, because they can go back to camp and resurrect everyone. But I think an ability score improvement to take our dexterity or charisma up is the way to go. Dexterity is going to increase the overall damage that we deal, as well as our armor class, so, and also initiative. Whereas charisma will increase our spell save DC. So I'm going to go with an increase to our dexterity, because that's just a good choice overall for survivability's sake. Now at level 5, we get ourselves the Font of Inspiration, giving our Bardic Inspiration back at short and long rest, and also it increases to a 1d8. So our Slashing Flourishes will deal a little bit more damage, which is nice. And we get level 3 spells. So there's a few that stand out. Fear is a really great one, as well as its illusion spell, so we can cast this as a bonus action. Targets become fearful and get disadvantage on ability checks and attack rolls, and drop their weapon, which you can pick up, and then they have to punch you. Glyph of Warding is also great because you can choose a damage type, and this does not require concentration, so you can lay this down and deal a little bit extra damage. And then Plant Growth is also quite nice, and if you have a creature knocked prone, they're stuck in the Plant Growth, so they can't get back up. So pretty nice you get some synergy on your team for this, although Plant Growth can be burned really quickly, so I do think Fear is actually one of the best choices. Underrated spell for sure, but it's extremely useful, especially if you get a high spell save DC with the Helmet of Arcane Acuity. It does require concentration, so if you don't want to use concentrations, Glyph of Warding is another great choice. We also get, I play as a Drow, so Darkness at level 5. If you're a Githyanki, you get your Misty Step there, which is really nice. And level 6, Big Power Spike, we get our extra attacks. Now 2 attacks. Honestly, this is super useful. So at next level, Glyph of Warding or Plant Growth for your next spell. I like Glyph of Warding for a concentration-free crowd control damage, but also Plant Growth, kind of the same deal there. So we'll go with that. And at level 7, I actually think this is the best choice. You can take the level 4 spell, and I would recommend Greater Invisibility or Confusion. But this is actually a good choice to put in the Paladin or the Fighter. So the Fighter will give us Action Surge at level 2 and another Fighting Style, which gives us a +1 to Armor class. So it's actually a very good choice. You also get a bonus action heal. I think that the Paladin is a little bit better because we get Command as a spell, and we also get Lay Hands charges for a little bit of healing and Healing Radiance. Or I guess we'll go Oath of Vengeance here, which gives us the Inquisitor's Might, which can daze a target. So where this becomes really useful is if you daze a target, they get disadvantage on Wisdom saving throws, and a hold person is a Wisdom saving throw. So with this, extra radiant damage, woohoo! And you can also daze targets. And on top of all that, you can also set up if you have a Radiating Orb build, which will give -1 to attack rolls. So lots of benefits there. I think Oath of Vengeance is a great pick. The Oath of Ancients is more healing focused. Oath of Devotion is more, I don't know, I would not go Devotion. Vengeance. Or if you want healing, I would go Ancients, but I just really like the Inquisitor's Might there. We're only going to be taking 2 levels of the Paladin. And again, the Fighter is another great choice too. But what makes this so good is we get ourselves the +1 armor class here. You could take dueling too if you wanted to use like a single weapon and then 2 weapon fighting for off crossbows. But we get our spells, which Command is our big one that we want. This doesn't require concentration, and this can be upcast. To command, you can command Grovel, knock people on the ground. You can command Freeze. You can command Drop Weapon. You can command them to move towards you. I think that this is one of the best spells for the Bardadin, so extremely useful. And then we're just going to take the Smites just because Thunderous Smite can knock people prone and push them back. Wrathful Smite can frighten them. So these are very similar to Thunderwave, Dissonant Whispers. Searing Smite does fire damage. Not something we're super going to be using often, but The Paladin has a lot of concentrations, that's a problem, so Bless is nice, but not something you want to concentrate on. And Divine Favor, bonus action, you can add additional Radiant damage, which is not bad, honestly, because there's some ways you can stack up and do Radiating Orbs off of that, so I think that that's a great choice there. But again, the big thing being our Divine Smites, big benefit there. So at level 3, or I guess level 9, we're actually going to go back to the Bard, so... Well, the Paladin's really great. Bard just brings more to the table. So at next level, greater invisibility, turn a creature invisible. And this is a higher chance of succeeding, so we want greater invisibility. You can cast this as a bonus action too, so extremely useful. And then Confusion's also quite nice too, because it can shut down large groups of enemies. So you could go that route too, or Plant Growth if you want to. Even Dimension Door for certain parts of the game. The Iron Throne. Dimension Door works well there. But we're going to go Confusion just because this is super useful in a variety of situations. Now again, Alert, just a little PSA. Alert's a great perk, or feat. But I think an ability score improvement, taking either Charisma or Dexterity up. Dexterity, again, more armor class, more damage, and more initiative. Charisma, higher spell save DC, and better combat, or better dialogue rolls. So I'm going to go with an increase in Dexterity. I just think that that's kind of the way to go for survivability's sake. Increasing armor class and initiative is super useful on Honor mode. So now, level 5 spells, I think greater, or Hold Monster is great, because there's some bosses in Act 3 that just get shut down by this, so super useful to take that. We also get ourselves level 5 spell slots. Woohoo! And then at level 10 Bard, this is where it all comes together. Our Bardic Inspiration increases to a 1d10, huge. We also get level 6 spell slot, huge. We also get a choice of, I would say, Intimidation and Deception for the plus 11 there. So better dialogue choices, or better dialogue rolls. And for our spell, could have taken Friends earlier. Got to be careful with that one though. And for our level 5 spell slot, Dominate Person is also an enchantment spell, so this could work, although it's not something you want to use too often. It is there in niche cases, especially with a high spell save DC. You can dominate a person really easily. But Magical Secrets, this is where things get really fun. So the first 3 here are my favorite 3. I really like Cone of Cold, especially because I always run a Create Water team. Lightning and cold damage get doubled with Create Water, so this can deal 128 damage at max, which is just busted. Conjure Elemental can also, at level 5, Water Elemental's attacks will make targets weak to Cone of Cold. So if you want to do a little spell casting extra, it's got it, because you can go around punching people with the Conjure Elemental and then Cone of Cold them. But also things like Lightning Bolt is great. Hunger of Hadar can be pretty decent, although we do have a lot of concentration, so I don't like using Spirit Guardians or Hunger of Hadar. We already got ourselves Command, but that's great. If you went with the Fighter, take Command, because that's really useful. I personally think that even Banishing Smite, I didn't even talk about this. This is the equivalent of a level 5 Smite, and it can be a ranged Smite. And if the target has 50% health points or less, they can be banished for 2 turns, which is another concentration, but this will break concentration, so be mindful of that. So that's why I like Cone of Cold and Conjure Elemental. You guys know me. These are really useful and great on Honor mode, because this hits in a large area, so if you have someone that's set Create Up Water, you can get in and start blasting and hit them with ice as well. And then you're also having a Conjure Elemental is extremely useful. Air Myrmidons, if you want to use a level 6 spell slot. Since we're not going to be using our spells often, what we can do is we can actually, or I guess we're not going to use the Staff of Spell Power. We can hand this around to everyone and get them to cast a spell upcasted. So we're going to take this first of all, and then we're going to summon in. You should do this at camp. Summon in either an Air Myrmidon or Water Myrmidon. The Water Myrmidon works really well with the water build, and Fire is great because they can haste themselves. Earth is good too for knocking targets prone. I personally like the Water Myrmidon and Air Myrmidon best. Lightning damage or cold damage is super useful. They also get the Explosive Icicle, which hits really hard, and then also High Mael Strike, so they're pretty good. You can see here, like, the damage that they do is pretty great. So this is where we'll Create Water set up. You see a ton of damage there, so they're pretty good for that. And then we can just swap off. Early game, I think that the best weapon early game is actually the Falar Aluve here, which we also have this Sing and Shriek, and we also get Pommel Strike, which can daze targets. And again, dazing targets means our hold person is going to land more likely, so that's huge. I also like to have the Cheeky Quazit as a summon. Obviously, that's pretty useful. And then Us as well, if you have Us. So we got the Falar Aluve Melody. This is a great early game weapon. You can get in Act 1. Flail of the Age is another pretty good one, but this does require Strength, so if you have Strength Potion set up. I like the Crimson Mischief too. This is a great choice, but also Blade of the First Blood, because this can give vulnerability to piercing damage to targets. So this is a pretty good weapon early on in the game as well. or not early on, late in the game as well. Sword of Life Stealing can be good if you want to go for more crit fishing, but also if you go an evil build, this is probably the best weapon, the Shar Spear of the Evening, giving you free casting of darkness whenever, and you can't be blinded, so you can go in invisibility, attack. Rhapsody is also a pretty good weapon choice because with Rhapsody, you get a +1 to spell it. You attack rolls damage and spell save DC for every foe you slay up to a maximum of +3. And what's great about this is it also gives you bleeding if you attack from hiding or invisible. And that +3 spell save DC is massive because we got the Helmet of Arcane Acuity here, which whenever you deal weapon damage, you get a Arcane Acuity for 2 turns. Arrow of Many Targets. And we'll get our full Arcane Acuity. And then with our bonus action, we can cast an enchantment spell. So even if you want to just cast Vicious Mockery, you got that as a cantrip. But we got Hold Person, Fear, Confusion, Hold Monster, Command, and even Dominate Person. So we got a lot of bonus action choices here, making this extremely useful. I have 29 armor class here, which is just crazy. So 17 for armor, 5 from dexterity, 3 from shield, 1 from ringer protection, cloak protection, evasive shoes, and 1 from defense. However, you can go with something like the Boots of Stormy Clamor because this will apply 2 turns of reverberation. And if you have the Illithid ability drain, this stacks this. Evasive shoes is just a great choice. Even Helldust boots are great for not being slowed down by difficult terrain. Ringer protection gives +1 to saving throws in armor class. And armor of agility, we don't get disadvantage on stealth checks. We get 17 armor class, +2 to saving throws, and we got our full dexterity modifier to the armor class. If you're going to go mirror loss, you can get this up to 30 because you can increase your dexterity even further. But something like this works really well. And the gontr mael is nice too because this gives us the ability to haste ourselves. So we get the celestial haste. And with our Arrow of Many Targets, this will apply Guiding Bolt to everyone. Some other good choices, Hellrider Longbow for +3 to initiative, and then also can hit people with Fairy Fire. Hellfire Hand Crossbow, typically mid-game, the hand crossbows are kind of a good choice because you can also go invisible, attack with this, burn a target, and then deal extra damage with the Fire Stoker. Nair Mister is nice because it deals pure force damage. Early game, the Titan String Bow is probably the best in slot, so you want to use that until you get like gontr mael, Deadshot, Hellrider Longbow, or the crossbows. So there's lots of great choices for bows, but end game, the gontr mael stands above all else. Amulet of Greater Health will set our Constitution to 23, so we can actually dump our Constitution as well. And it gives advantage of Constitution saving throws to hold concentration. So what this looks like in combat is we got lots of different options. So we can even just use like Greater Invisibility on ourselves, turn invisible. And then we got the ability to go around sneaking and dealing extra damage. So that is pretty good. We also got, I guess we'll go with just a regular old attack here to show the damage that's possible. Critical hit because we're invisible, giving ourselves advantage on the attacks. And then once we take out targets, which we're not probably going to count as because these are teammates, but once we take out a target, we get increased to our spell save DC. So this further stacks up the effectiveness. So we got that Arcane Acuity building up there, giving us an increase to our crowd control. So things like Fear will land more frequently. Yeah, it's probably not going to work on them because they're teammates considered. But yeah, typically what we want to be doing is going with our slashing flourishes here. Defensive flourish is a nice way to start combat off, so you can go with this, and whenever you do that, you're going to give ourselves the, we also get the Quicken Incantation, but we get ourselves 33 armor class, which is really nice. Greater survivability. And then also another thing is, I got the Helldust Gloves on, which give +1 to spell attack, spell save DC, and 1 to 6 fire damage additional. We can also go with the Radiant Gloves early on. Whenever the wearer deals radiant damage, 2 turns of Radiating Orb. So we can actually apply that with like Inquisitor's Might here. So we can apply that to ourselves and then go with our Slashing Flourish, and then we can apply Radiating Orbs to targets pretty quick and easy. So that's the nice thing about that, is you can apply Radiating Orbs really well, and it deals extra damage too. So super useful. And then Dissonant Whispers, pretty great too, can frighten the target. And that's another enchantment spell which you can use as a bonus action. So lots of bonus action options here, but the bow being our best choice. You want to typically be using like the Arrow Many Targets as much as possible because it can hit multiple targets. And I don't have to explain why that's so good, but basically whenever you do that, we're going to be hitting, and it's going to spread around to multiple targets. He ran away, so we didn't get to show that off. But yeah, typically with this build, what we're going to want to do is, oh, we got Halson there. He's probably going to pick up Will and Confusion. So I got my action used up there, so we can attack again. And I'm just going to show off briefly what the combat looks like. But we got ourselves the Slashing Flourishes, which is super useful because we can hit 2 targets. We can hit a target twice. And then you can also use your enchantment spells as bonus actions. So things like Hold Monster and Hold Person can be cast with a pretty high spell save DC. Don't know if that worked properly, but yeah, the main thing that we want to be doing with this build is stacking up our Arcane Acuity. So we already got a +7 to it, which is nice. So that gives us, if we look at our spell save DC, we got 23 spell save DC, so 8 from base, 3 from charisma, 4 from proficiency, 7 from arcane acuity, 1 from scarlet remittance. So we can get it up to +10, +3, so this can go even further, like 20, 25, 27, 28. So you can get a +28, and then even further depending on your gear. Like if I were to put on the Helldesk gloves, I guess I can't do that right now, but that's going to further increase our spell save DC. There's a few other ways you can increase it, but yeah, most people are not going to be resisting that once you get your full arcane acuity set up. So this can be an extremely, extremely powerful build, probably the best in honor mode and the best in the game. So if you found this video useful, hit that subscribe button below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.